You know full well that Manchester City are doing the right thing when all of the attention from the mainstream media in the international break, when there's very little football to talk about, very little exciting things to talk about, is about Manchester City and the 115 charges, or Pep Guardiola is leaving the football club. Who is going to replace Pep Guardiola? And all of those negative headlines around Manchester City have resurfaced once again, as they often do, and they are connected to the fact that Manchester City are winning football matches. They're doing well, and they want to bring us down, as they always do. But before we get into it, a big shout out to this video sponsor, OK Jersey. Wearing your team's colours is getting more and more expensive, with official club merchandise costing more than £80 per kit, and that's not even for the same kit that the players wear. If you can afford to splash this sort of cash every year, then all the power to you. But with the cost of living crisis, wearing your team's colours or seeing your little ones proudly doing the same for an affordable price is the reason you should check out OK Jersey. Top quality replica kits for unbelievable prices, all the latest kits, retro kits that even have the official sponsors from back in the day, and even some wild fan concept kits. Check out OK Jersey and use the code TYP08 for 8% off your order, with worldwide free shipping for orders over €50. It's become a bit of a theme, Manchester City in the international break. It's either Pep Guardiola is quitting or leaving or being replaced by XYZ, or the 115 charges. This international break is just over a week old, and we've had both. We've had both. Of course we have, because that means this is great. This is fantastic. That means Manchester City are doing the right thing on the pitch. We're scaring them. They want him gone. They want Manchester City to be relegated, punished. No one wanted it. No one was talking about the 115 charges last season. Do you remember that run when we went on this disgusting run of like unbelievable amount of loss after loss after loss after loss last season? All of the talk was about the loss after loss after loss, and wasn't it? No one was talking about the 115 charges. No one was talking about who's going to replace Pep Guardiola. None. They all wanted him to stay. And who cares about the 115 charges when Man City aren't winning? But now, Manchester City are winning football matches. Pep's got to go. 115 charges, get that back. We need to sort that out. We need to get him punished and fined and relegated into oblivion. That's what we need. We need to fix this situation. But it stemmed from an unusual person, Carlos Plancart. I was surprised to hear him, former Manchester City video analyst, a friend of Pep Guardiola actually, was interviewed. And I think this is just a man answering questions and answering it honestly, which is a little bit concerning. I'd be a bit annoyed if I was Pep for him to have at least given the catalyst for the media to run with these headlines, because he said this: it's a personal decision he'll have to make. I think a project should last 5 or 6 years, no more. But not for him, for everyone. Afterward, you have to regenerate. As a friend, I would tell him to look for a new project, because he still has a long way to go. This is why he's been at City for so many years. They've treated us like family. They've let us work as if we are at home. He didn't feel that way at Barca or at Bayern, which is great news, actually. That last bit, the fact that he feels like he's at home, which is great. The next manager, whoever it may be, we're having ideas thrown out there in this video, later in the video as well, so stick around for that, from certain individuals in the media seem to have made their mind up already who is going to be the next Manchester City manager, and whoever it may be, hopefully they feel just as welcome and just as at home as Pep Guardiola does. So that'd be fantastic, because that means if you do feel like that, you feel welcomed and at home, you can play your best stuff and utilise your best abilities. You know, hopefully that'll be the case. But then Scott Minto, who I actually think is very fair, and on TalkSport of all radio stations, very fair, and I really appreciate his opinion. And this is what he had to say on the situation.
You guys know what I think about Pep Guardiola, and the fact that he has not just been a top-class manager, who I've got respect for anybody who manages football, and then he's a top-class manager, and then he's a top-class manager who's won trophies, and then he's a top-class manager who's won trophies where half the world's trying to copy him at all levels. From academy
consistently
to Championship, League One, League Two, different tiers. People have asked me, has Pep Guardiola ruined football, or English football? After I stop laughing, the answer is, well, these coaches are trying to think they're Pep Guardiola and trying to think they've got players like Pep Guardiola has. But I sort of heard, I did a little bit digging at the start of the season, and I spoke to some Spanish sources, and people are sort of a little bit in the know. He wasn't sure. He had 1 year left in his contract. He wasn't sure if he was going to be offered the England job, the Brazil job.
Well, they did sound him out, didn't they? He sort of revealed that.
They did. So he thought that after 4 straight English top flight title, something never been done before in English football. One more year left in the contract, these guys can go again, and he was wrong. Boy, did they fall off a cliff. So then I think he's thinking, well, I can't leave them in this state, so he signed a new contract. I get it. I can only imagine how draining it is, and sometimes you listen to him and other managers, pre-match, post-match especially, during the week, he looks tired of the questioning and almost just wants to have a proper football intellectual chat rather than certain journalists looking for a little bit of a headline.
And I really respected Scott Minto's opinion there, because I actually think he is making the implications that he's tired, making assumptions that he's tired. I think, understandable. You're perfectly well within your rights to do that. I don't think he is. I actually think this season he's come back quite rejuvenated. I saw him after the Monaco game. He was going mental, absolutely mental. So there's a fire in his belly still. Firmly believe that, and I don't think he's watched enough Manchester City to know whether he is tired or not this season. Talking about last season, I mean, the guy was going through a sticky situation with his family, personal situations with the missus, and all of the on-field situations and the club situations and personal life of Pep Guardiola manifested into a serious problem, a big problem. And I think he's past it. I think he seems much healthier, much happier, and more upbeat, actually, and sharper with the media. So I disagree with what he said there. But I do think there is an agenda, and the fact that what he said at the end of that as well, about the certain journalists looking for headlines. I love the fact that he sat there in Talk Sport. The irony of being sat there in Talk Sport, your employer, in other words, your employer, basically, Scott. But Alex Crook, he went on to say this alongside him.
It's one of the hardest things, isn't it? If you're a brilliant manager, as he clearly is, knowing when to bow out. Jurgen Klopp, there was talk that he won a quadruple in his last season. Didn't quite happen. Brian Clough obviously bowed out on the back of relegation. Arsene Wenger arguably stuck around for probably 4 years longer than he should have done, because he was hoping to go out in a blaze of glory. Sir Alex Ferguson signs Robin van Persie, having missed out on the title on the last day of the previous season, wins the league, sails off into the sunset.
Genius.
I'm sure that is how Pep Guardiola would want to go out. So if he did win the title or even a Champions League this year, maybe he might think, do you know what? This is the time to go.
You know what? I don't actually think anything he said there is that bad. And normally I think everything Alex Crook says is bad quite often. He's normally talking absolute bollocks. But in this regard, I don't think what he's actually saying is that bad. It's the headline underneath him that bothers me more than anything. What next for Pep Guardiola? That's not coming from Alex Crook. That's coming from Talk Sport. This is mainstream media. The individuals that go on to these shows quite often have opinions that disagree with what the mainstream media want the agenda to be. In terms of let's make a narrative. It's generating a narrative, looking for something to talk about. What next for Pep Guardiola? This video performed incredibly well on TalkSport. Outperformed most of the video, I think all of their videos on that day. I don't think it's a surprise. And why is that? Because rival fans who watch these videos will click on the idea, because of the idea of Pep Guardiola leaving Manchester City excites them. So they click on it, and then they get disappointed when they realise at the end of the season that he's not actually going anywhere, and that Manchester City is still going to have a very good manager throughout the course of this season. I'm quite confident that he's going to see out his entire contract. I'm confident of that. But they are constantly pushing the narrative, and it's always in line with City doing well. It's always in line with that. Without fail, Manchester City do well. Negative headlines about Manchester City, 1-1-5 or Pep's got to go. It's always that. And the insinuations that he's tired, it continues. BN Sport, Richard Keys and Andy Gray, they talk about the situation as well.
I think Guardiola's now into his last season. I've said for some time, I think he looks a little tired. I think he looks a little disinterested at times. Yeah. I think he's nearly out of fuel. And there's only one replacement, isn't there?
Okay.
Vincent,
back.
Yeah.
Former captain.
You can't argue. I mean, okay, if we were critical of some of the way he played his football when he was at Burnley, we certainly can't be critical of what he's done at Bayern Munich. It's been a fabulous job.
And these comments were following the Monaco game, just because we drew with a late penalty from Eric Dyer. Again, that same game, if they'd watched the aftermath, Pep Guardiola was storming over to the City fans and just giving them such a big round of applause and going mental at the officials for giving the penalty in the first place. Never a penalty. Going mental. Passion. Fire in the belly. I've seen it. This man loves our club. His club. He's one of us. It's his club as much as it is ours. Pep Guardiola is one of us. You know, we love him, and he loves us. He loves this city. We've seen him at Oasis concerts going absolutely mental. We love it. We love him. And he's wearing a number 8 Colin Bell retro shirt. Man, that is just like the stuff dreams are made of for Manchester City fans. I'm telling you right now, that is so good to see the greatest manager who has ever lived loving Manchester City Football Club. There isn't a question imminent. It's on the horizon. We need to brace ourselves as a fan base that he is, of course, going to leave at some point. When, we don't know, because who's to say he won't extend again? Who's to say he won't? He's not that old. People talk about him like he's on death's door. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, he's not that old. He's got a long way to go, as Carlos Plancart said. Yeah, exactly. That's a good thing. There's plenty of time for him to do more damage to the rest of the Premier League while being on the throne of Manchester City. But who next? Vincent Kompany? Potentially. That's a very realistic possibility. Personally, I think that's the most likeliest as of right now, but the narrative will soon change. But what do you think, Blues? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe to Typical City, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Typical City now, holding up silverware.